Hello there and welcome to my guide on how to craft weapons properly and what to look for in a weapon. Disclaimer, there will be a few links in the description, I think, to my Twitch channel, Discord, and whatever I'm deciding to link there while doing this video. There will maybe a few more regarding some mechanics in Wilson, because I will start streaming PoE in a few weeks from now on, or in a few days, maybe, depending on how early I want to start practicing for the next season. As of now, this will be the last content of Wilson for a time until they fix the game, patch it up, make other builds more viable, and just buff a lot of things so we are not forced to play Bleeding Edge all this time. In this guide I will be referencing a lot about my build and how to craft weapons for my build specifically, or for a Bleeding Edge build. That does not include every weapon out there, but I will give you a broader understanding about how to use crafting orbs, what to look for on items, how to craft items, and so on. So first of all, let's take a look at those weapons on here. So you're probably thinking like, okay, I'm playing Bleeding Edge, why do I socket in like Sacred, Aether, and or Shadow damage gems into my items? So what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that it only matters what the total damage average is of a weapon. At least for Bleeding Edge that is the case. So what Bleeding Edge is doing, it stated here, I think, it converts base physical damage into rand damage, which is technically completely wrong. It would just convert all your damage from your weapon into rand damage. You can see that I'm having here some poison, fire, and lightning. That is from my accessory slots right here. Right? This is toxic, this is fire and lightning, and some physical. But yeah, it will just not scale with like really anything other than just total damage from a weapon. Second thing to keep in mind is there is a maximum total damage, which a lot of people are referring to the DPS. So for example, I've seen people posting weapons like my dagger, for example, and are just saying like, yeah, it's just 607 DPS, which is completely wrong. I don't know why people are so stupid to even write and or believe that, because that weapon does not have 670 damage. 607 damage, right? So the DPS of this weapon, when we're taking into account that you're only dealing with one attack per second, of course, would be 374 plus 607 and then just divided by 2. That's how you get the average damage. So you should just aim for the highest total damage on your weapon that is humanly possible, alright? And that basically should be it, alright? That's the only thing you're really looking for, essentially, for Bleeding Edge build. So it doesn't matter what we're socketing in here. The only thing that I would keep in mind when socketing stuff in your weapon is, for my build that is, I have to socket in toxic gems to get toxic damage for my trigger's reach to apply poison, right? But that is a different story, and you should go watch my build guide on that build that I'm playing right now. But yeah. As for the other stuff, it doesn't matter whatsoever. Second thing to keep in mind is all weapons will have the same base average damage, in terms of physical damage, on item level 187 plus with 3 stars, with being a rare item, alright? So I would go to Mojave, and yes, we are lucky to get one of those items. So that is a level 81 weapon, which of course has a little bit lower base physical. It's a little bit tainted because there's a physical damage mod on there and on here, but basically all the weapons will have base physical damage. For this axe it's 34 to 85 on a 1-star eye level 81, and we're having 55 to 64. But to be like endgame type of weapon, it would be, I think, 66 to 77. Shut up, Mojave. But it would be 66 to 77 for a mace, for example, and so on and so on. Which I think we can see here, or not. No, we can't, because it's 4-star legendary. But yeah. So, what does change the base physical damage is obviously quality. Higher quality will mean more base physical damage for a weapon. So we are at 4-star quality here, which gives us about 72 to 83 physical damage. Also, it is a legendary, so it can have more mods. But yeah, the quality as well as the item level will influence the DPS weapon is dealing. Then there's a second thing that you have to keep in mind all the times while searching for valid bases for your items. So, you can see the last mod on this item is material damage on attacks. This is actually the most potent one. There are 3 variations to that. It's material damage on attacks, elemental damage on attacks, and I think there should be occult damage on attacks, but I'm not sure about that, but there could be 3 mods. I've only seen the material and elemental so far. This will increase every material damage mod, or elemental damage mod in case you get the other mod, on this weapon. Period. That will include all the mods that you can see on the bottom, which is for me physical and rend, but also all the mods that you're getting with socketing in your gems into offensive 1 sockets. Alright? So that is why my 96 toxic damage from the gems just scale up to 144. Right? So in theory, weapons with 2 damage mods, or not in theory, it's basically proven, but weapons with 2 damage mods and the material damage mod, if the damage mod's on there, which is for me is physical and rend, which is perfect, if those are of the corresponding type, so for me it's material damage type, if they're according to the mod that you have on there, which is for me the material damage percent, which is 49%, then the weapon would technically deal a lot more damage in a triple DPS weapon, for example. All of those, or like, not all, but a lot of those are triple DPS and they don't get fucking even close to that, right? Not even remotely close to my dagger, because of this mod. It's incredibly powerful and you will get a lot better results all the time. If you can get the percent material damage with 3 damage mods, dude, you're fucking in. Like, you will fucking destroy shit with that, right? So keep that in mind. But there's an important note to make here. If you're dropping a weapon in an expedition or wherever you are doing stuff that already has the percent material damage mod on there, and that only includes the percent material damage mod that you can see at the bottom of the mod list right here, so the 49% there. If it naturally drops with this mod, you can just throw the weapon away because it's bugged, right? The TLDR is the game thinks that the mod is part of the original base type without any mods, and will calculate the damage according to the maximum possible roll, which is 50%. So if you're getting weapon with a 50% roll, then the base damage would just stay the same. For daggers that's like 35 to 108. But if the material damage is lower than 50%, it would just get lowered to like, let's say 30 and 100, for example, alright? But all the other daggers will still have 35 to 108. So if you're removing the material damage mod, the weapon would just have like half the damage in any other base type in the game. So you can roll the material damage mod onto an item without any problem, but if it already has the mod, when you've dropped it, the damage will be lower and you should not consider this weapon for crafting. Please keep that in mind and please be prepared to throw stuff away if it drops that way. That is the only way that the average damage will decrease on a weapon if it's originally dropped with that mod. So let's skip forward to how I would craft weapons. So first of all, I would try to get a good base. So a good base item would either be a weapon that already has 3 offensive 1 slots, which is nice because they're quite hard to get, and or already has good mods. So for example, this weapon right here has decent mods on it, right? It's okay, it's physical and rend, which is quite nice. If I could now get the material damage on there, that would be probably insane. So let's assume you're having a dagger like me. For me that was I had the physical damage on there and the material damage percent, and the rest really does not matter at all, to be honest. What I would do first is go to the city interface, and we have a bunch of shit here. and you would go to the dark market and increase the item's quality to 5 stars. That will increase the base physical and you will see what you can deal with this weapon. And also it will increase, or I think it will increase the chance of you rolling more than 1 socket or up to 3 sockets on an item, which will make it far easier to roll 3 offensive ones on there. So once you have a suitable weapon, do that, and God, those fucking dialogues. So try to get the quality up to 5 stars, and then you can like take a look at what we're doing after that. So you should prepare a good rare weapon in that case, rolling it just with the normal entropy orbs. That is my way of doing things. There are better ways maybe, but I think that will be the way to do it later on, unless you're having a load of physical gems like the copperstone, the rubies, and the whatever the green gems are, the toxic gems, right? So just try to get a good rare weapon and then just feel lucky to increase the rarity again in the city. I'll take the risk. I really hate him. Increase the rarity on an item to turn it from a rare into a legendary item. That will give you extra mods up to 6 again. That can really make your weapon insanely powerful. How to craft the other way would be get sockets into your item and then just roll with an entropy orb. The red ones are for legendary items, of course. The grey ones are for not legendary items. So how are we doing this? Basically, if you're socketing a gem in, and it doesn't matter if it's offensive 1, 2 or 3 for the gems, for weapons, just socket them in, and the entropy orb then will choose a stat that is beneficial to the gem that you've socketed in. So it will not guarantee you to have rend damage on attacks if you're socketing into offensive 1, 2 or 3, and it will just give you a chance to roll those mods, or a higher chance to roll those mods, but all mods correspond to the certain type of damage. For example, this is material damage, so it can roll things like the material status ailment chance score, for example. It can also increase the chance for you to roll attack speed because it is beneficial to stuff like material damage. It can roll stuff like this, which is the percent material damage on attacks. It can also roll stuff like rend damage of the rend gems, physical of physical gems, toxic of toxic gems, and so on and so on. But it will not guarantee it. It would just increase the chances. So for people who have played PoE, it's like delve crafting or fossils, right? Where you just invest more into a crafting process of an item, and you will have better results across the board, but it's not guaranteed to give you anything, right? It's basically like that, and you should also handle it like that. Where it's just a little bit more expensive, but you could get better results. You should use the tiers with caution. I would personally only tier an item if you are really feeling lucky and having a really good weapon. I did this for mine and I was not lucky. I just got the I think I got the leech or attack speed score, either one of those, just some shit stat. And that will be mostly the case, so you could not feel really a difference between socketing in gems or just spamming geos on them. But it can and will make a difference, yes. Keep that in mind, please. So, yeah, that basically should sum it up pretty good in my opinion on how to roll weapons. So, again, best possible weapon is percent material damage with 2 material damage mod types. You can get up to 3, but it's highly unlikely. But yeah, that will give you the potential best weapon. It doesn't matter which weapon type you're dealing with, or what damage, or what like basic item you're using. If it's a dagger, you can use dagger skills, of course, like Mark of Impurity, but for the other types, the average damage will always be the same. It will always be 71.5 on average for a 3-star quality 187 weapon. right? If it's rare, of course. But there is no difference in that, so you can just choose whatever you want. I personally like daggers for crafting because, as I said, you can use Mark of Impurity and stuff like that, which is neat. But it will not deal more damage than all the others. It will not increase any chances or whatever, it's all the same. And yeah, keep in mind, like what I said about the items dropping with the percent material damage on there, that those are not useful, and so on and so on. So, with all that in mind, have fun crafting. If there are any more questions, I will try to answer them in the comments. But I think there's everything to be told in here. For gear crafting, I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest, because it just feels random. I mean, you can do it for the shield and just socket in 3 Alexandrites and just spam the orbs on there, basically, to get high block shield, block chance or block efficiency shields, which is nice, but again, not guaranteed. So, yeah. Just try your best. I would only recommend using those crafting methods on weapon. And yeah, again, if there's anything else, just ask me in the comments. I try to answer everything I comment on my videos, and you might consider subscribing to this channel. And have a wonderful day, and until then, bye bye and have a good time.